Welcome to Shadow Ventures Founder Files. I'm your host, Dana Barrett, and this is the show where we bring you some of the most innovative startup founders in proptech. And I am excited today to have Zig Rubel with me, the co-founder and CEO of Forsight Digital. Zig, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I am well. It's good to see you. And I want to spend our time today kind of getting to know you a little bit. But before we do that, let's just talk a little bit about the company. Tell me about Forsight Digital.
Sure. Forsight Digital is a SaaS-based proptech company focused on lowering the cost to build and operate commercial buildings by applying technology to facilities planning.
Interesting. So is this typically a part of the process where it hasn't been automated in the past, or are you guys just doing it better?
No, that's a great question. It hasn't been automated in the past. And as a matter of fact, clients hire specialists that use their years of experience to advise them on what should or shouldn't be built.
And so you're basically taking all of that sort of what's been sort of manual process and turning it into a technology-based, technology-enabled process, essentially.
That's right. We're codifying the knowledge that is in specialists' minds to software.
Okay, very cool. Well, now, of course, I have to dig into your background a little bit because in order to codify that knowledge, you have to have that knowledge. So tell me a little bit about, your background and what brought you here.
So I was one of those specialists. I think I still am, but I'm a healthcare architect and have practiced for over 30 years. And over the 30 years, I decided to focus on healthcare buildings because my sister was operated on in one of the ORs that I designed, and I realized I could touch the people that I care about. And
so hang on a second, let me interrupt you. At that point in your career, is that you were doing a variety of different things, including healthcare, and you just had that moment, like that aha moment after that operation or that operating room was built? Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's right. I was doing anything and everything. I think at that point in my career, I had done middle schools and office buildings. And I just got assigned to this healthcare project at the firm that I was on. And after I left that project, I went to a commercial office complex. And at that time, that's when my sister got operated on in that OR.
And you just sort of realized, oh, hold on a second, I'd rather be doing this thing that has more impact.
Exactly. More social impact. That's right.
That's really cool. So then after that, you kind of veered off career-wise. I mean, I shouldn't say veered off, but specialized in healthcare facilities. And you mentioned you've been doing it for 30 years. So give me some of the highlights, like size of project, locations in the world. Like what have been some of the most amazing things you've worked on?
Wow. How much time do we have? No.
As long as you have.
My first set of healthcare projects were in New York City. That first project was at NYU Medical Center, and I also got to work on some work at Mount Sinai. And then I decided to move out to California, where there's a huge requirement to build healthcare facilities. And unlike New York, where a lot of the projects in New York City are remodels, in California, I had the opportunity to work on brand new medical centers, which were replacements. So the first healthcare project that I worked on in California was over 1 million square foot hospital for Kaiser Permanente. And it was the first replacement hospital in the Bay Area. And I got to work on other large projects like that. So UCSF Medical Center at Mission Bay, I was a project director. Laguna Honda Hospital, which is an 800-bed skilled nursing facility, and several other smaller projects. And around that time, I then met a semiconductor engineer, and we started a company called Aditas, and realized that technology could play a big role in planning all kinds of buildings, but at that time, it was just healthcare. And through that experience, I got to work on projects throughout the world, around 15 million square feet in India, China, and parts of Europe, and the Middle East. So my most exciting project, I like to say, is my next one, because all my projects are like children, and you can't have a favorite. So my favorite one will be my next project.
I love that. So it's interesting because you're bringing sort of this wealth of experience doing it in the manual version, it sounds like.
Right.
And I think, a lot of people don't realize what goes into these. We just show up to the doctor or to the hospital or to the facility, and we don't really think about what goes into the planning and the designing and the building. And so can you just talk a little bit about, because I know with Forsight Digital and with FastPlan, your main product, that you're focusing on that planning part of the cycle, but what goes into that? I mean, how many people get involved? How long does it take? What's it about?
Yeah, great question. I often say that any size project, whether it's a remodel or a campus replacement, takes as long to plan as it takes to design and build. And that has been true in my experience working on million-square-foot campuses, as well as like a departmental remodel like the one at NYU that we talked about. And the reason it takes so long is that the operator, the healthcare operator, invites all of the doctors and nurses and gets consensus. And it's typically not metric-based. It's more feeling, this is what I think. And invariably, those processes change over time, and they certainly change when new doctors or new nurses come to these projects. So they're highly variable. And the designer and builder just want to design and build something. And after they start the design and building process, what ends up happening is by the time it's getting ready to open, it needs to change again.
So you're already spending money that you weren't sort of planning to spend to sort of pre-renovate almost.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And every healthcare project that I've worked on, I've unfortunately had to tweak or update the design to meet the medical professionals' needs. And I think a lot of it is preventable.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I mean, I think we're getting to this, right? But like, so this idea to build, to start Forsight Digital and to build FastPlan sort of came out of almost that frustration of going through this process over and over again, sort of the same way, and seeing these over cost overruns happen, and seeing these buildings that are not functioning as good as they could have if the planning cycle had been better, right?
That's right. I think what you're hitting the nail on the head. It was the disappointment in the client after our team, both the designer and builder, had worked so hard on this project, of being frustrated that it wasn't done the way they wanted. And I created Forsight Digital to give the industry a tool so that we could provide our clients better service.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned when you were sort of talking about your background that you had sort of done some technology company stuff before. So what do you bring from that experience? What was the learning out of that experience that you're bringing to Forsight Digital?
So I would say the biggest lesson was the need to focus and not to try and do like too much in one go at it, and trying to figure out what building to build, right, is a huge task. And so we're not focused on the design as much as we are focused on the parts of the design that need to be included.
Yeah, well, let's dig into that just briefly before we sort of close it out, because you and I have talked offline, and it sounds to me like this is something that hasn't been given a lot of thought, because the planning itself, while it may take a long time, isn't super expensive as compared to the design and the build and the operations. And so, which is probably why nobody's really automated it yet. But it really does impact all of those other costs, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you could imagine, and I think as you correctly pointed out, the planning cost is a small fraction to the cost of the building, and the cost of the building is a fraction of the cost of operation. And many owners feel that they could operate in any kind of facility. I think what they don't always see is that if they could design the facility to be operationally what they want, they'll end up saving more money and provide better care. And that's what FastPlan attempts to do.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of funny because I think everybody's like that when you're buying something new to some extent, even just your own home, right? Like, oh yeah, this will be great, until you realize you have to go 2 flights downstairs to do the laundry, and then you're like, well, this isn't so great. It seemed great. I thought I could do it, but now no. And same thing, even with new car, any of those things. I feel like we're all like, oh yeah, that'll be fine, and then you have the feature, and you're like, no. So it makes a lot of sense, and of course, those individual homes and a car and those kinds of things cost way less money than a huge medical facility.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that's a really great example, and I often use it. So if you go buy a car, which, let's say costs $30,000 to $50,000, you could take it out on a test drive and see how it performs. And with buildings, you have no idea how it's going to perform until it's built. And what FastPlan does is it gives that operational insight before you even start the design.
Yeah. I know also that medical input has been really important. You talked about kind of getting doctors and nurses together. And so as you try to, or I shouldn't say try, as you put FastPlan together and are kind of codifying that knowledge, I know your other co-founder brings the medical side, correct? Did you feel like that was a key component to having this product be as well-rounded as it is?
Absolutely. I mean, having a doctor as a co-founder brings a lot more legitimacy to our team. So we're comprised of myself, who brings the facility design experience, Vamshi Gankiti, who's a medical doctor with a background in biostatistics, and Jerry Aujala, who's a technologist and kind of allows us to bring the technology that we've created to scale. So it's a much more usable product.
I love that. And I love that you're focusing on this niche of, healthcare facilities that you know so well. But knowing the overall industry, I know that you did start out as more of a generalist. Do these same kinds of problems occur in all building types, or is it just some?
I would say most. So we have looked at other markets, and we have a lot of interest in the K through 12 education market, because a lot of it is population-based and rules-driven. The same is true for airports, transportation type of facilities, justice facilities. So there's a lot of building types that can leverage this thinking. And I was speaking with a professor at UT, and he was saying that this could also be used for wind farms and road construction, which I hadn't really thought about, but it's definitely applicable to almost everything in the built environment.
And it kind of makes sense that anything that needs a plan would benefit from having tools.
That's right.
So, yeah. Right. Awesome. Well, Zig, I really appreciate you spending a couple of minutes with us. And I, of course, wish you the best of luck with FastPlan and Forsight Digital.
Yeah, thanks for having me.